I'm Robert Roche. I'm from the American Indian Education Center, and I've been involved with our community, at least administratively, since the early 70s. Actually became involved in 1969 with Russell Means. I don't know if anybody knows who he is. He started the first Indian Center. So I'm going to go back a little further because a lot of people, most people don't know the history of the American Indian community here. And it's very unusual because we don't have any reservations in Ohio. Most of the people here, at least in the 60s, we had about 50 to 60 different tribes here, or nations as we call them. We're down to about 44, and this was conducted by an assessment by Beverly Brokoff. I believe she was a curator of the Natural History Museum, and she did that in '98. So we have about 44 different nations here. And it was a part of a program initiated by the U.S. government, or the Bureau of Indian Affairs, called relocation. And relocation to us was termination. The purpose of relocation was to get us off the reservations because the reservations hold a vast amount of natural resources. I don't know if you're aware of that. And as a part of the treaties, reservations were not given to us. They were a part of the treaties. We've lost over 99% of our land. They were part of the treaties, part of 371 ratified treaties that the U.S. government has not honored, has never honored any of them. So the treaties gave us, as a part of the treaties, land was included. And with that, after the discovery of oil and gold and other natural resources, and also dumping the toxic waste on our land, they thought it would be better if they could keep the reservations. So by relocating us and assimilating us into the original 7 cities, later to be 11 cities, that was their goal. That was by design. And we have now 71.1% of Native Americans live off the reservation. That's a lot. And there are no services according to the treaties. All the services are only provided for people on the reservation. So I'll go into that a little further down. But the American Indian Center came about. Russell Means is a young man who worked for the Council of Economic Opportunity, called CEO, saw the plight of the American Indians, so to speak, here in Cleveland. When they relocated us on in the projects in 3 separate areas: the north, south, and west, east rather. Not the north, we couldn't swim, but the north. And I think probably if they could have got away with this, they would have done that, but they couldn't do that. So by design, again, to divide the community, to separate the community, and in hopes that the community wouldn't form a nucleus or form a community. When Russell Means first started the Indian Center, the design was to get people back home, people that were dying in the streets, that were unable to make it here, and to centralize a community. And you have to understand that most people that came here, matter of fact, some of the people that were here last week were a part of that relocation, didn't speak English. And if anybody met Mary Jane Buckshot, she was one of those people as a part of the relocation. They didn't have any job skills. There aren't any jobs. For Mary Jane, that would have been tending sheep, living in a hogan, and living traditionally, farming. They didn't have job skills. They didn't have skills to work with. So when they came to Cleveland, they basically did menial labor at a very low rate. And I don't know if you remember, but anywhere between $1 and $1.25 an hour in the late 50s and 60s. So we were pretty much dumped here, and a lot of people weren't making it and were passing on. They were dying, and it was a one-way ticket. So I wish I would have brought one of the flyers, but I have one of the original flyers that shows a picket fence with a nice house, and shows a factory with the smoke coming out of the chimneys, because again, Cleveland was a leader in industry with the steel mills. It shows the Cleveland school system, and again, Cleveland at that time had an exceptional school system. I don't know if anybody remember, but we were the tops in the country. It showed, I can't remember all of it, but basically it broke down to a flyer to entice, to bring you up here, to give you another start, to give you a better life. Now, just to give you a picture of the reservations, most reservations are third world conditions. So if you want to go to a third world country, you can just stay right here in the United States, and a lot of reservations are still like that. Although some of them have embraced gaming, and a lot of tribes or nations refuse to because they don't want that negative element in their community. And traditionally, they don't do that. So it's again, with 71.1% of Native Americans we have a population here in Cleveland. And I call ourselves the invisible people, because people do not know, do not recognize who we are. They can't tell by looking at us, although I think I can, because I'm so used to seeing Indians, but we come in all sizes, shapes, and colors. So people on the west side, near west side, may take us for Cuban, Japanese, Asian rather, Mexican, white, black, yellow. Our children look Asian when they're born. And because of that, and because the city of Cleveland has systematically kept us, has kept any services or programs away from us in terms of working with us, people don't know about us. And then there's the second issue, and the second issue is Chief Wahoo. I think the administration that we have now, the current administration, the U.S. government, are reluctant to speak with us because they think we're going to talk about Chief Wahoo. Well, let me tell you something. Chief Wahoo is an important concern of us. But if you had a list with all the different concerns that we have, and you have some of them right now, we passed that out, he's on the bottom of the list. But what it breaks down to is recognizing us as human beings, as people, and not mascots. And we are a race of people, a very proud race of people. And I want to sum it up real fast by telling you, we were practicing our religion, we had governments, we had apartment complexes while the Europeans were still crouching in their caves. That's how advanced we were. We had civilizations that were extremely advanced. So the, I don't know why I said that. I don't know why I got onto that. I forgot what direction I was going with that. But, just again about the stereotyping and to demean us as a character is very, very offensive. But again, it's on the bottom of the list. The services that we provide, which that doesn't include all of them, by the way, are those services that the Indian Center does with 2 full-time people and 1 part-time secretary. And let me tell you something, it's extremely difficult. It's very hard. We work many, many hours trying to provide the services. We have laws that protect our children called the Indian Child Welfare Act, and we provide that services, which is not listed because most people don't understand that. What those are, we provide services that deal with issues concerning the children, that may, for example, going to school, spirituality, culture. We wear our hair long. Some nations wear their hair long in honor of their parents, to respect their parents. The schools may say, okay, you can't have long hair. Then we have to challenge that, because under the Freedom of Religion Act, we're allowed to do that. And that respects our elders. That's what our societies are about. They're centered, our societies, I don't want to call them communal, but are centered around family and are centered around our children. And in most cases, you've heard the expression, it takes a whole city or a whole country. Well, it takes a whole tribe to take care of one person. And that one person, and a lot of the tribes, are part of the family, literally a part of the family. So what we're trying to do, a little bit about the history. After Russell Means started the Indian Center, it went defunct in 1985 under the administration of a man named Jerome Warcloud. I don't know if anybody ever heard of him. Jerome Warcloud, during his tenure, had provided a lot of services for the American Indian Center. And at that time, through Russell Means and a group called the American Indian Movement, they were able to raise the issues or raise the concerns of Native Americans throughout the country, because for the most part, anything having to do with Native Americans is censored. Rarely do you hear about Native Americans. We have a community here. You rarely hear about Native Americans. And that's national. And that's by design. We're censored because I believe they don't want people to know who we are, what type of conditions we're living in, and how the U.S. government has failed to honor their treaties. And that's really just the bottom line.